We're excited for another one of our Google Hangout speakers in 311. Appreciate everybody setting up appropriately, ready to engage here. We have Dr. Hanagrif from Texas A&M, beaming in live from Michigan to talk to us about the Ag Experience Tracker. And so I'm going to turn it over to him, and then we'll have some question and answers at the end. Dr. Hanagrif, it's all you.
Okay, awesome. Well, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
You can? Awesome. Okay. Well, so Dr. Foster wanted me to talk to y'all about, y'all have already seen AET. I think we've already visited once. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
Y'all are at a different camera angle, so it's hard for me to recognize you now. Little side view going. But anyway, all right. So, well, welcome to cool, crisp Lansing, Michigan. I'm at an Ag Teachers Conference here today. And so in the lobby of the hotel, do y'all hear background music or are y'all okay? Good. Okay, good. So I'm not in a bar. It's too early for that. I'm just in a place getting coffee. So the idea this morning, I think, was to talk a little bit about general parts about AET. But really, I think it's to answer your questions because you've already got a little bit of experience. And so, so Dr. Foster, can I take this thing over and actually show them some stuff?
Yes, sir. You should be able to float to the top, I believe, and give you a chance to share screens or to the side.
Okay, in the settings, maybe?
So when I float over, you look at to your left bar, and it'll give you the chance for screen share. It's the second icon down.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I guess you guys can, let's see here. Are you guys able to probably see yourselves, right?
Yep.
That's not what we want to do. So a certain application, that's what I want. Geez, it's not working very well. Let's see here if this will let me do it now. There it is right there. Okay. So I believe now y'all are seeing the AET up. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. So a couple of things that really I think matter to teachers. And this is the teacher side of AET. So as students keep records, and this is, I guess, what's unique about the AET record book that no one else had really done before. And that is that as kids keep records, and you all are going to be future ag teachers, there's something all of you are going to want to do to be really successful. And I think that's to promote your program. Now, when I say promote your program, the traditional ways of promoting your program are to have a student that's in the top 10 of your school, valedictorian even. Another way to promote your program is to get blue banners hanging in the school classroom. Another way to promote your program is to do a garden project for the school and PR some things. And all of those things are still all valuable efforts. But if you're a teacher using the record book, you have some tools that we feel like are essential and that saves you time. So, for example, one, especially in Pennsylvania, everybody's 100% AET. So if a teacher in Pennsylvania will put their kids in the record book and then simply click on accounts and get the kids started doing a profile, if they click accounts in the FFA roster helper, this gives them a list of all of their kids and quickly shows them the students that have done all of their profile. See the green boxes there? That lets them know the student's done all of their profile and they are able to be a member of FFA. And they can just simply send members, and that pushes all the students over to the FFA side, which for a teacher does two things. One, it simplifies the process. And two, it lets the students populate their profile, which is more accurate. You're probably not very aware with this part, but of course in the past, teachers have done a lot of that work themselves, and that is a waste of time. Another part about AET that's valuable for teachers is that once students complete their whole profile, teachers actually have a message center where they can text, email, or AET internal message. They can even text parents and email parents. You can even, as a teacher, build your own special contact list for like booster club folks or assistant principals or principals, and you can even message them. So this allows the teacher in one place to type a simple message, define which group needs to get this, sometimes all of the groups, and then just send the message. And so under accounts in the record book are a lot of really valuable tools if the teacher has the kids all use the record book as they're supposed to. Another area is called tracker. This is an area of the record book where the teacher can work with students to develop a calendar for the program. So this simple calendar, you click a day and you can pick the kind of activity that you want to create. And the cool thing about it is this whole piece right here that I just am doing is actually something the teacher can assign students to help with. So this does two things. One, it builds the calendar for the program, but two is, if I click back on tracker, it also builds what we call our strategic plan system, which is hand in hand. They go hand in hand. And then here's where teachers give students access. So these tools also help teachers save time because they're placing the POA into the hands of their officers or their leaders. This strategic planning tool is also cool. It lets the teacher and the students all learn about what a mission statement is and vision statements and do a little SWOT analysis. All this flows into this calendar system that I'm mentioning. All of this works together. Over here on the side, there's a teacher journal. As the teachers do things outside of the normal classroom, this builds up a journal list for those teachers and creates a report that helps them justify their extended contract. The cool thing about this is what the teacher enters. Every time a student does a record, a journal, it actually helps build this report. This is an online visit manager where you can evaluate students' SAEs online. So I guess looking at two parts of the record book that are important is accounts. If the students are using the record book, the teacher has lots of great tools. Tracker is the teacher managing the POA, but assigning that to the students to help. And then finally this recording what the teacher does and help justify their summer contract. Reports is actually where everything is funneled to. And so there's one report that's a lot of people are excited about. It's called the Economic Impact Report. And if a student is keeping records in AET, if all the kids are keeping records, a teacher can get a vendor summary where the kids are spending their money to get local sponsors to help them by understanding where the kids are spending money. And then the other is this economic impact and program summary. And so if I download this, now this pulls up. Can y'all see this report? Oops, are y'all able to see this report?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so so this report is a summary of how many times the students have logged in, and you can even do a comparison from last year to this year. What kind of percent of SAEs the kids have, what area of interest all the kids are interested in. This is a total list of every experiential, I should say, every experiential learning opportunity that the students might have, SAE, FFA, other activities, community service. So this gives kind of a little illustration of where the students are spending their time in Ag Ed. And then you move down in here to some economic values. So a summary of how much the kids have earned in their jobs, if they have that, how much the money the kids have spent. Then this summarizes into some economic impacts, even per student over here. And then it even goes down to estimate the value of volunteerism, which is community service. And so each program gets programmatic values, economic values. And as an ag teacher, if you hand this to an administrator, I think you have more data developed into a single area than any other teacher in the school. And all of this data, all of this information you see right here, all comes from the students just using the record book. So I guess to summarize with this, the record book has a lot of valuable tools. And so I hope that I hope this makes sense to y'all as far as why use the record book. So can y'all see me back now? Is the screen off?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So what questions do you have for me? You all have tried this. What are some things that you have on your plate for questions?
One at a time, going up there. Look in the camera and ask the question.
Not all at once.
Hi, Mr. Hanagrif. My name is Angela Becker, and I'm sorry.
I can hear you.
What is your favorite secret about AET that you don't feel a lot of teachers know about?
That's a super question, Angela. I guess, do you remember that calendar tool that I showed you where the teacher uses the calendar and helps kids get that, helps them work with the calendar?
Yes, sir.
That's almost like one of the secret areas that has been really harder to get going than I thought it would be. When I walked into a high school classroom, every single teacher had a calendar on the wall. Or they had a dry erase board that was dedicated to the what's going on. Does everybody know what I mean? Like what's happening? Every teacher had some version of that. Some teachers had multiple versions of it. They were spending a lot of time just trying to tell everybody what's going on. So if a teacher would use the calendar in AET, and I'll kind of describe to you how it works with the calendar, and I showed y'all a picture of how it looked. But with the calendar, that's one area of AET that a teacher has that they could assign to students. So your first question is, what is the tip that nobody really utilizes? It's that share to students. I mean, most teachers share to students, but they really don't let them control it. I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense to y'all? They tell them they can do it, but they don't really assign them to do it. So if the teacher would assign the kids to do the calendar, I think personally, you gave a kid January and you gave a kid February and say, you are in charge of documenting what our program does in this month. And if those students went into that calendar, I'm convinced there would be more information in the calendar. And that information, by the way, also flows to something we call AET Web. Each chapter gets their own free website, part of AET. So that calendar that we build in AET goes to the internet and tells parents, here's what's going on. The calendar goes into the kids' record book and tells them what's going on. And at the same time, that whole calendar, the special events that relate to program quality standards, they fill out the National Chapter Award. So Angela, this calendar part to me is just super efficient. It takes it off the teacher's plate, and I don't see them doing that as much as I thought they would. So does that make sense to y'all?
Yes, thank you.
You betcha. There's an area that I think ought to grow more, and it's growing, but it's just we have so many tools out there. Sometimes they're not getting them. So there's one.
Hi, my name is Julie Wurst. I'm a junior agricultural science major. My question actually relates to the calendars. Is there a way that you can take the calendar and transfer it to like a Google Calendar or like a calendar within like another calendar application? Along with that is like, how accessible are other applications into AET?
That's a great question. Tell me your name again, Julia?
Julie, yeah.
Julie. All right, Julie. Well, Julie, the idea of the calendar, in fact, Julie, I may be better if I go and show it to you. So let me try to do that. The calendar is, in AET, is designed, I guess, to say that the calendar is part of AET that there is a lot of value in. So you asked Julie about a Google Calendar.
Correct.
You can take an AET calendar and you can share it on Google. So for example, I'm in a teacher side right now, right?
Uh-huh.
If I go to Profile and I go to our privacy settings, I am able to publish my calendar on several things, but the biggest one is iCalc.
Okay.
So that URL right there will allow our AET calendar and everything I just showed you to go all the way to a user's Google Calendar, which then updates everybody what's going on. Now, Julie, most people ask, how come I can't take a Google Calendar and import it into AET? And there's really a simple answer to that, and I better to show you. So if I go to Tracker and I go to a calendar event and I put today, we're going to do a elementary school day, right? Like in a chapter, right? It's an FFA activity. So far, would everything I've entered right here go on a Google Calendar?
Correct.
Well, not exactly. The event would, but you wouldn't be able to tell somebody that it was one of these categories. You follow me?
Right.
Okay, so the first limitation is the Google Calendar doesn't care what category it relates to. Google Calendar just says it happens on this day, this is the name, and this is the time. So in AET, I can take my name and I can take my time and I can push that to Google, but Google doesn't care about this. So there's the first limitation of a Google Calendar. Second limitation of the Google Calendar is when a teacher creates or students create events, they ought to connect those to the quality standards of ag science. So if I were doing an elementary school day event, this would be about ag advocacy. And so if I hit save, there is an event called Elementary School Day Ag on the 8th. If you copy that link, you can export that into a Google Calendar, and that works that way. But if you can't really develop that data in a Google Calendar, so it can't come into AET, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Then there's also another level that I was going to talk about, but I'm glad you asked the question. If I click back on this Elementary School Ag Day, now whoever is in charge of this event could, if they wanted to, they could write an agenda out.
Okay.
Like the details of when things are going to happen. Now that's in a Google Calendar, right? So that's okay. You could also define the description of the activity and goal 1, action plan, goal 2, action plan, goal 3. By the way, this is all part of this one elementary school day event. Again, not in a Google Calendar. Also, teachers and students have a planning tool where you can say, well, today what we did was we planned the event. And you could say that we had to do a budget. So you can continue to build timelines. This is results. You're actually able to talk about results here. How did you advance agriculture? How did you impact your program or the target audience? And then how does this relate to those quality standards? You can even load photos. You can do a budget. And as an ag teacher, you can actually assign a student to log students in to this activity. And you can start picking them one at a time. And so this is actually even able to use a barcode scanner. We have a new student ID system that actually has barcodes on it. And this lets a student set up a laptop, add an event, and as the students come in, they can scan them in. So do you follow how complex this is?
I do.
And a Google Calendar just doesn't have that detail. But you can actually take a Google Calendar, an AET calendar, and using that link I shared with you, you can simply push all this stuff to those calendars. My hope is, Julie, that I can get teachers, and by the way, who should be in charge of this little activity I just did? Who should help the teacher with all those goals and outcomes and all of that? Who should help?
Students.
The students. So if I can get a student to take charge of November and another one to take charge of December and everybody to take charge of a month, then I can actually help the program. I can actually still push that to a Google Calendar, and then that's pretty common. As far as other apps or other applications that come into AET, it's actually mostly the other way, that we try to push data out to other tools. FFA.org is probably one of our biggest partners, National FFA. And so we do bring in some data from FFA and share data back and forth. So hopefully, Julie, that makes sense, and kind of gives you an idea of an important part of AET. And actually, before I leave there, let me go over to the profile of a teacher. This is where the teacher actually at AET Web can build their own website. And so this is a website that I think I can open here for you. This is a website that is automatically set up from every chapter. They don't have to do anything. All the chapters have to do is approve pictures, and all the pictures from the portfolio of students and the chapter all come over. And then this is the news that talks about upcoming events. All of this data comes right from the calendar. All of the student leaders come from the calendar. All of this stuff comes right from the AET website. So it's a free website, stays up to date all the time. And that also is an important part of the calendar. Okay. All right, Julie, great questions. That makes sense to you? What kind of data we use and what can be shared?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. a very long answer to a really direct question, so sorry.
Next question.
Okay.
All right, hustle.
Hi, I'm Katie, and I'm curious, when you're teaching financial literacy to students, how can you use the AET and its resources to do so?
That's a great question, Katie. That's kind of my passion, I guess. So that's a super question. The answer to that is kind of tough because we're so far behind in some of our agribusiness content that one of the parts of AET is to try to help with that. So, Katie, if I switch to our AET site, I guess the first thing I would do is go to our student help. And in student help, we have a lot of resources that try to help with teaching the record book, but sneaking in financial literacy, as you mentioned. If I go to a couple of areas that I think are good, there is probably one that's the best, and that's AET in the classroom. So let me back up. All of our student help guides, I think, start to help students that better understand financial management. There's a whole video series that is how to do things in AET that's very business management. There is how to do an SAE plan and how to manage the records for each type of SAE. Those are all financial concepts. You know, our breeding operations guide really talks about the supply chain and how that works. So there's a lot of other areas that are important here, but AET in the classroom is got some lesson plans. We have 6 lesson plans that really build their way into understanding AET records, which is financial management. I've created, let me jump down, I've got a set of vocabulary terms and related quizzes. In fact, if I click on that, Katie, there is a financial area here, financial term quiz. And so this is this idea of here are all our terms in AET. Let me pull this up. And of these terms, can you all see that okay? These terms are general ag ed, and then these terms are all the way through financial terms. And so there's parts of those terms that are important. And then really, if we go back here to this new video series I'm building, these are 2 videos, Katie. One's 19 minutes long and one's 15 minutes long. And it talks about why keep records and the basics of record keeping, which is really focusing on the financial terms. So, Katie, to answer your question, these lesson plans, this video series, and even this vocabulary and even depreciation worksheet I have, all of these resources are about financial management and as well as student help. And so I guess how do we teach financial management is just to try to focus on the way they keep records, and then that teaches financial literacy. So good question.
Hi, my name is Kurt Miller. I'm interested in how difficult was it to pitch this idea to the National FFA?
That's a great question. And I guess that's an interesting one. We never really pitched it to National FFA. We're pretty much grassroots up, so I really only care about a teacher and a school. That's it. So after you get a bunch of teachers in schools, I think you get the attention of National FFA. We all have the same goals as National FFA, so it really wasn't meant to be a pitch. Really what we created was a tool to help teachers. National FFA is very focused on also helping teachers and students. And so really kind of a nice partnership that developed. The idea of keeping records and recognizing award winners, FFA has done since I was in high school. And so, which some of you thinking that's probably a long time ago, and you're right, it is. So the idea of record keeping and SAEs and helping kids document that and reward those that are successful. AET started with that in mind for a teacher at a school, at a state like Texas. And as other states have gotten on, which right now we're representing about 800,000 students in about 47, 48 states each week. And so National FFA and us have been really kind of working together a long time. And we've just grown to work more and more and more as our system's grown, and again, matches their mission of helping teachers as well. So really, it wasn't much of a pitch. It was more of just a building partnership over time.
Other questions that you had that Dr. Hanagrif can show you how to do something in AET that you're struggling with, or concerns? Diane?
Maybe I can ask a question. Are y'all entering in records into the record book? Is that what you're doing?
Yes.
You are? Okay. If you don't mind, can I kind of just outline some of those steps for you? Maybe you've got this information or not, but I do a lot of workshops across the country on SAE records. In fact, I have a 2-day workshop series where teachers enter records for 2 days. And if I switch back to my application here, I may give you a couple of steps that may hopefully could be helpful to you. If you go into the record book as a student, so I need to go be a student right quick. I don't know what I have here. But if you go into a record book, step 1 is to set up the SAE. And so when you set up the SAE by hitting add new, a couple of the step 1 pieces are make sure that you name the SAE correctly. And these help guides all through the record book actually assist you there. The naming of the SAE is the #1 area that I think people make a lot of mistakes on. And that's that, in other words, it's hard to understand what the project is. After you set the SAE up, y'all may have noticed this little caution symbol. These are problem SAEs that exist in the record book. And this particular SAE has a problem. And can y'all see what that problem is?
No entries.
What is that?
No entries.
No records. Exactly. So we have this warning all the way from you changed the type of SAE and the records are no longer valid. We have records about your project ought to be turned off. And so I guess looking at this as step 1 for every student is set up the project, following the help guides. Once the project is set up, make sure that the records are kept up to date and ongoing. The step 1 also is to make sure to get a plan done. SAE plans are really important. They outline each part of the project and what you think is going to happen. So step 1 is to get the project set up, do a plan. Step 2 is to enter the records, which could be journal or finances. And then step 3 is to actually come into the project and click on this annual review. See the red X there? And it shows me that this project is got 1 year of records. And so annual review is the 3rd final step. And really the annual review, you need to talk about 3 things. One is how you got started. And then 2 is skills that relate to your project. And then finally 3 is a little bit of results. And if students will identify those 3 things in this small box and hit save, that will let them know that plan is done. And so there's 3 really steps to creating an SAE. Step 1, set it up and do a plan. When the red X goes away, that means you've got something in every plan. Step 3 is to do an annual review. And if this project is complete, to go ahead and turn it off. And so by turning it off, you prevent additional records from going into it that would be a mistake. So those are a little bit of tips on how to use and follow through the SAE part anyway. Okay.
Roger, could you talk about that teacher SAE assessments link that was at that last view you had?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, that's a good question. So let me go and take a look at that. This is a new part of AET, and I haven't probably talked with y'all about the mobile part of AET. So it relates to our mobile application. And so let me go to a teacher right quick. So I am a teacher in this chapter. If I click tracker, I can use our SAE Visit Manager, which I have grading rubrics that help support this. If I click this, it shows me all the assessments I've previously done. But if I just go in here and say I want to do a new assessment, pick a kid. So I pick myself. It shows me the SAEs that I have active as a student. So I'm the teacher. This is my student. I am wanting to look at the breeding beef project for this student. I hit step 3, and I can say that I am the teacher. And on this date, I spent 1 hour. And on this SAE project, this is what I think. This is what you need to do. And I can even rate the student on a 1 to 10 scale. I can even load a picture. And if I hit save this evaluation, which I can hit save here, the student is going to get an email sent to them of that summary of that information that I just entered. And also when the student logs into their record book next, and again, those rubrics I have help lay this out. When the student goes into their record book and they go to the experience manager, they will see I have an unread assessment. And so if I choose this and hit view, then that'll actually show me the information that I entered in that evaluation. So the SAE, go back to the teacher side, the SAE Visit Manager is an online platform that the teachers can use right from their office and pull up a student's SAE project and kind of give them an evaluation, a recommendation, a scale on 1 to 10, what things look like. And when they hit save, it does several things. 1 is it builds the teacher journal. 2 is it communicates with the student what they're needing to do in their SAE project. Now, continuing with that, if you click on reports as a teacher, then we have a report called the SAE grading report. And it does the same thing as the Visit Manager, except it lets you filter by dates, even pick a certain class, and all of your active students will be listed below. And you can quickly see that they have an active project, no plan, no journals, 2 paychecks, no photos, their annual review's done. I can even get a summary report of the student. And if I click this little grade, it jumps me right back into the assessment part, again, where I document my time spent doing this, and I can communicate with the student. So probably the last part of this is this whole thing I just talked about, teacher grading, teacher SAE Visit Manager, and then as a teacher, you have a mobile site. This mobile site on your phone while you're on the move actually lets you do an SAE visit right here on your phone. So you can hit new assessment. You can pick the student you're wanting to assess. It's going to show you all of their SAEs. It's the same one we just looked at. And if you click any of these and hit next, you actually do the online version, the mobile version, and you can load a picture right off your phone. So the whole SAE visit process has got everywhere from you're just on your computer in the office and you want to do one student at a time. You want to pull up a report and look at everybody that's active and give them feedback, or you want to use your mobile device. So several ways to online quickly assess students on their SAE progress.
Awesome. And how do you, can you show us, I guess not, how do you add the mobile app to your phone?
I can show you. So we don't have an application for us, the mobile app. So this thing I just showed y'all right here that you see up, right? This piece here. As a teacher, really quickly, you can look at your entire student directory on your phone. So instead of a teacher having their phone with contacts in it, you just use the AET mobile site, and it actually puts all your information of your students right on your phone, like phone number, email, where they live. You can even reset a student's password from the directory. You do SAE visits, and then this is your entire state directory out on your phone. So you're at national convention, and some kid from Hershey falls down and hurts herself, and you see the jacket, on the back, but you don't know who the egg teacher is in Hershey. As a teacher, you can just click this and you'll pull up Hershey and you can contact the teachers right then. If you look at the student and teacher help of AET, on the student side, there is a little video about how to load the app onto your phone. And then as a teacher, there's also another little video area of how to load it on your phone. And so these are mobile applications. So by clicking the video and letting it play just a bit, both these videos, teacher or student, both of them, they start from just a blank web page on your phone. And it shows you how to type m.theaet.com in your URL. And this goes through that process for you. So it goes all the way through how to load that on your phone. So anyway, does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's not a mobile app. It's a mobile, what we call, website. That enables us to let it work on Androids and iPhones, and actually programming wise, it was just a lot cleaner and more efficient.
Awesome. Cheyenne, did you still have a question? If it is, it'll be our last question of the day unless someone else has one.
Hi, I'm Cheyenne. I'm a junior in agriculture and extension education. I had a question. Growing up, I had like pleasure horses, so we did trail riding and stuff like that. With a project such as this, I had problems with applications for like American Degree, Keystone, considering I didn't get income from these. So if you're doing like transfer for like monies, different stuff like that, how would you go about entering that in order to have a complete record?
And so Roger, before you answer, because she's curious to how do you handle all these dead darn horse SAEs and make them work out? I would like you to share your background experience in the equine industry, because they don't know.
Sure, thanks. So Cheyenne, that is a great area. That's kind of an area I worked in for about 10 years. My wife and I showed and trained, started out just training colts, and ended up showing rope horses and working cow horses, but in both quarter and paint associations. And so I'm very familiar with the industry. For a long time, I was a horse person that was trying to figure out how to pay for all my junk. So that's why I started riding horses for other people. And then before I knew it, I didn't own a single one of them. I had a couple of mares, and that's all. And we had about 25 head of horses at our house at one time or another, mostly studs, and rope horses, cow horses, breeding, AI, did all that work. And it is a tough industry to make a living, is what I can tell you. And so with my background, I feel okay to talk to you about it. The idea of first the record book, separate from the award, Cheyenne, there's a couple of ways you would handle your horse projects. One is that the horse for you, if you own it, if it's your horse, if you bought it, if you pay for the feed, then you have to say to yourself, if I'm an entrepreneur, then I'm saying I'm willing to sell this horse down the road. And again, in that business for a long time, I had a lot of really nice horses that I bought myself and sold. Most of the time I did not do that because it was hard to actually make money buying and selling horses. A lot of friends that did it, but they never really, to me, made any money. And so buying and selling horses is a difficult task because the history is so long. It takes so long to build that. But if you take a horse as an entrepreneur and you buy the horse, to me, the horse on a record book is current inventory, like a show steer. And that horse, Cheyenne's going to stay in your project for 3 or 4 years, and you're going to put in all this money into the horse, taking them to shows. You can do some labor exchange. You didn't pay for the entry fee, mom and dad did, but you have to work at the house for it. So you can cash expense, non-cash expense, whatever. The value of the horse will continue to go up, which is encouraging. However, the expenses also go up, so the two match. And so Cheyenne, at the end of your record book, if you take it an entrepreneurship standpoint and you never sell the horse, then all you've done is shown you've invested a lot of money into a project that went up by the same amount. And so the two net out to be zero. And so Cheyenne, you'll never show any financial growth. Cheyenne, the other way to approach horses, which I think has a lot to do with most kids, is really the parents are paying for everything. The kid's really not paying for anything. They didn't buy the horse. They don't pay for the feed. If that's the angle that they go, some parents actually are really owning the horse and the kid's working for them. So you could work for your parents for pay, or you could work for your parents on labor exchange or non-cash. But Cheyenne, both those don't build a lot of equity either. So I guess the bottom line is that for an equine student, there's a lot of ways they could keep records. But now to your award application question, it really depends on the state. I'm not sure with Pennsylvania. I'd have to look. I think you can get your state degree in Pennsylvania through unpaid hours. Is that correct, or do y'all know?
Yes.
I think you can. So Cheyenne, back to your state degree. If your mom and dad own the horses and the students just log in all their hours, they spend working with the horses and going to shows and working at home with them and pleasure riding. The parents own the horses. The parents have all the money. You're just documenting your time. You can get a state degree that way in Pennsylvania, and that's one option. Now, the American degree, you're not going to be able to ever get, because the American application wants economic, financial growth. I think the core of the American degree is they're wanting to see students that come out of high school building economic wealth, that either from paychecks or from profitable enterprises. And neither one of those relates to sometimes horse projects. So horse projects are tough to keep records on. There are several ways I think you can achieve a state degree with a horse project, but how do you really achieve economic gain with a horse project? It's very difficult. I did it for a living. It's really hard, especially saying I buy him and sell him. That's always tough. Some students go to horse shows, Cheyenne, and win money at the shows. Those are ways that you could actually say, I have a horse project where I'm training a horse, plus I have this show business where I pay entry fees and I win money and prizes. So Cheyenne, a little bit there, maybe the horse is one project that you're going to probably just break even on if you never sell them. And the other is you have a project that's a show business where you're actually trying to earn some money at shows, maybe even scholarships, Cheyenne. So these two SAEs this one may break even, the horse. This other project may actually show growth. So there's a little bit of an opportunity there. So that's a lot of different options for that. But Cheyenne, does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, a couple of ways to go. Sure.
Roger, can you show me one thing? I was back here playing. I learned something every time you present. So I tried to do a mobile SAE visit, and I attached it to a student. How does the student see the visit report? Like, where do they go to look to see where I uploaded that photo and said, hey, you need to do this?
Yeah, that's perfect. So if I jump back over to that record book. So remember, I'm a teacher, right? So I did a visit here. I did a visit in the report, or I did a visit on the mobile app, either one. The student, when they go into their record book, well, two things may have happened, Dr. Foster. One is when you do an SAE visit and hit send, if the student has their email address set up in their profile, it will shoot them an email. That's one.
Okay.
But when the students log into their experience manager, they see all of the teacher assessments that have been done. And it even tells them how many are unread. And by the way, this read unread assessments actually ends up showing the teacher that the student hasn't read it. But as a student, you can see your assessments right here. And when you click this, you will see exactly what your teacher sends you. And so there's where they see those details. The photos go straight into a student's portfolio for that SAE. So does that make sense and help?
Well, I have to apply by learning. So when you go into the portfolio, you look at it by experience, it doesn't show all the photos. So she'd have to go down to her beef breeding. Yeah.
Yes, very good. So when a teacher does an assessment, they pick the SAE they're talking about.
Sure.
So if they load a picture, that picture automatically goes to that student's AET portfolio in that SAE. The reason why we did that is when they're out there running around with their phone, we thought that a teacher might be at a stock show or at an activity somewhere, and they snap a picture and say, hey, hey, good job, this looks great. That picture actually is a way the teacher can send the student a photo for that SAE. When they apply for an award application, those things all stream together.
Wonderful.
So,
well, is it okay if the students, if they come across questions, can they tweet them at you?
absolutely. I try to keep up with that, but there's too many technology outlets for me. But if you send it, that'll put it to my email, and that'll let me grab it.
And I do appreciate you taking time out of your schedule when you could have slept in or took care of other work for your presentation. I wish you best of luck keeping those Michiganders in line and helping them learn something. Learn them up.
Yep, they're a good group of folks, so it'll be easy.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thank y'all. See y'all. Y'all take care. Have a good day.